Today, I saw a sign that a business had, and it made me chuckle at first, and then it made me go, So it said, "New year, new goals, same procrastination." And of course, that's so relatable, right? So I chuckled for a second, and then I was like, it's so sad that that's so relatable because so many of us feel so stuck in that cycle. So I thought, you know what? One of the chief things I would even say that I help my clients do especially when we're first getting them started, right? As they're learning new tools to enhance peak performance in their life, is handling procrastination. Because I don't care who you are, I don't care what walk of life you are, that is something that we all deal with, right? So to start this off, if you will suffer through a tiny science lesson with me, I feel like in the end, it will be a huge benefit because this will give you the ability to understand what's going on in your brain and therefore be in charge of your brain instead of it being in charge of you. One of the things that's misunderstood is that we think that procrastination is lack of motivation or worse, laziness. And it's actually not either one of those when we look at the neuroscience of what's actually going on in your brain and body when you're procrastinating. So you walk away with only that, just know you really don't have to beat yourself up. You can just understand your biology and get it to work with you instead of against you like it's been doing. That's key. So rather than lack of motivation, the problem is you're actually at a very high level of motivation, which is why when you step away from the desk and the project that you're supposed to be working on, or when you step away from, the gym door and you go back home and you watch motivational videos about working out, you get super excited and you think, okay, I'm ready, let's do this. But when you sit back down at the desk again, or when you show back up at the gym again, all of a sudden that motivation drops. So what's happening in this civil war that's going on in your brain and your emotions feel like they are taken hostage is your dopamine system that creates that spark, that desire, that hunger, that want to get in action, to go accomplish a thing, begins to war against the cortisol area of your brain, which tells you to be fearful and makes you want to stay comfortable where you're at and becomes afraid to go out and explore and do and experience new things. And so these two systems then start warring against each other and create the absolute havoc and chaos in not just your mental state, but in your life, right? Like, who wants to live in the panic of a procrastination cycle and the self-loathing that it brings? I think that's the heartbreak. That's actually why I wanted to talk about this today, is because I think people wrongly loathe themselves when they're in a procrastination cycle. Everybody feels that torture swing that I just described of high motivation, and when you go to do it, you feel no motivation, and then it starts a cycle of beating yourself up and self-loathing and telling yourself you must be lazy or you need to get more motivation or all sorts of lies that are actually not going to help you. But here's what will. Okay, so the key to getting yourself out of this crazy making cycle is to get the ratio of what's called the challenge skills balance into balance. And one of the most effective ways to do this is to gain clarity via clear goals. So clear goals aren't really like setting your goals for New Year's. They're actually something way more powerful than that. So clear goals are actually bite-size. Think of them as like sub-steps to the bigger project and goal that you're working on. That one that you're procrastinating on. So these are teeny tiny. Even think of them as like micro steps on the way to achieving the project or the goal that's in front of you, the bigger thing that you're actually procrastinating. And so the reason that this works so well is breaking this down into these little micro steps actually get yourself back into that dopamine drive, the one, that had you excited about the task until you actually sat down to do the task. So when we break this into those little tiny chunks, what we're doing is we're giving ourselves a dopamine drip with each little chunk we accomplish. The reason that this is powerful is those little tiny micro chunks allow your brain to get a little dopamine drip constantly each time you achieve them. And pretty soon you're actually knocking out task by task the very things that you were procrastinating earlier. But it's simply because now you're working with your brain and your brain feels rewarded for sitting down and doing the task that before you were feeling agitated about, right? That itchy agitation that we feel right before we start procrastinating. So because those actions are now tied to the dopamine that your brain loves, it will continue as long as you have created little tiny breadcrumbs along the trail to the success that you're looking for. Tiny is key though, because we can't have the brain distracted with analyzing or wasting energy on trying to figure out the how, the what, or the why of what you're doing. All right. Once we do that, then the cortisol kicks back in again. And now we're back in that cycle and that struggle. So keep those super, super tiny so that you don't have that cortisol overtake your dopamine levels. As long as you can keep the dopamine drip higher than the cortisol flush, you're golden. So what I would suggest you do is you take that project or that goal that you've been procrastinating on, the things that you've been struggling and banging your head against the wall on, and you look it over and ask yourself, okay, what is the tiniest next step? Then what is the tiniest next step? Then what is the tiny next step? Just jot them down. It only takes you a couple minutes, but it will really break you free. Write those down. You can even just scribble on a little scratch piece of paper, then sit down to do the project and watch that dopamine flush come over you as you check each one off. So I think I mentioned earlier that there are a couple different reasons that we procrastinate and a couple different ways of procrastination. All of them can be helped by getting that challenge to skill ratio in check. And that's why I thought I would start off by sharing how to utilize clearer goals to get yourself out of the cycle. But another one is distraction and how we utilize it in procrastination, how it becomes they're evil twins together. So maybe I'll try to come back later this week and share a little bit of tools about the distractions and how we can get rid of those in the procrastination cycle as well. Either way, you guys, I hope today's tip helped you. I hope you start to break things down into those clear goals. And most of all, I hope that getting the little geeked out science lesson today helped you understand that you're not lazy. You're not a horrible person who just needs to get your crap together. There's just biology going on that if you understand it and you know how to work with it, you can actually overcome it. All right. Happy New Year, guys.